Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my cerebral lights. It's me, the Cerebral Diva. Um, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about money and finance. And I want to talk to you about how filing bankruptcy was actually a godsend for me. And I know sometimes when people hear the word bankruptcy, it makes them cringe and recoil. And, a lot of times people associate a certain stigma with the word bankruptcy. But I'm telling you, instead of thinking bankruptcy, when you hear bankruptcy, hear reset. Because that is essentially what bankruptcy is an opportunity for you to press the reset button on your financial course or your financial life or your fiscal life. And I'm so glad I exercised my opportunity to file Chapter 13. So here we go. I I owned at one point three homes. I had two investment properties. One was an apartment building. One was a single family dwelling, and the third was a condo that I lived in. And right on the precipice of the mortgage bust, I pretty much got rid of everything except for the home that I lived in, which was the condo. So if you've owned a home before, you know very often you get these annual tax assessments, tax statements, which pretty much detail your property value, and you get to see the rate that it's either appreciating or depreciating. And my condo, when I first purchased it, it was three bedrooms, three bathrooms, it was three levels. It was huge, larger than many single family dwellings, probably, close to 2,500 square feet. And it was just for me. And, but when I purchased the condo, I believe the purchase price was about maybe 270, $280,000, somewhere around there. Believe it or not, by 2000, and I believe I purchased my condo in two, 2006, somewhere around there. Um, by 2012, which was 6 years, it had depreciated to about 100 and maybe 10 or 20,000. I'm sort of giving you guys these loose numbers because I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a substantial difference, more than 50%. I would say that it depreciated by about 60 to 70% of its original value. So I was paying at this particular time for this mortgage almost $2,800 a month for my mortgage on top of association dues. And knowing that this property had depreciated so much, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to continue to pay this price pay for this amount on this home. This is ridiculous. So I went to my lender and I asked for a mortgage modification. Now, if you don't want to know what a mortgage modification is, a mortgage modification essentially is an agreement between you and your lender to lower your interest rate so that it makes the payments more manageable for you and less likely that you'll default on your loan. Now, the problem for me was I was current on my payments. Um, so the lender was less inclined to negotiate with me because they didn't see that I needed any help. Now, at the same time that I had this condo, I also opened up a boutique. So I had lights at my store, lights at my home, phone at my store, phone at my home, security at my home, security at my store, gas at my home, gas at the store, bookkeeping, taxes at my property taxes at the store. I'm sorry, sales tax at the store, property taxes on my home. Basically, every single bill that I had was multiplied by two. So I was spending upwards of probably about maybe $12,000 or $13,000 a month just on bills alone. And it just got to the point where I was keeping my head above water, where I wasn't really making enough money to save, but I was making enough money so that I wasn't falling behind. But that didn't make me comfortable because I knew that it was only a matter of time before something happened that could sort of throw everything out of sync. So I wanted to be prepared in advance. So that's why I went to my mortgage company to solicit this modification. Now their reluctance to work with me based on the fact that I was current on my mortgage, it was mind-boggling to me. I had to write letters and hardship letters and explain to them why it was what necessitated my need for a modification. So I did all of the things, completed all of the tasks that they had assigned to me, and ultimately they denied the modification, which is typically what they'll do. So at that point, I had to decide what was best for me. So since they weren't willing to work with me based on the fact that I was current on my mortgage, maybe if I wasn't current on my mortgage, it would be a motivating factor for them to work with me. So I decided to stop making payments on my home. And while this may seem a tad bit extreme, I feel like they had drawn a line in the sand, and it was up to me at this point to decide whether or not I was going to cross it. And I decided to cross it. I decided I was not paying my mortgage. Whatever ramifications resulted as a result of me not paying for my mortgage or paying my mortgage, I was okay with that. And so I knew that it would adversely affect my credit history, and I had resigned to the fact that my credit score was going to plummet. So I stopped paying, and I think about maybe after I was 90 days late, I went back and reapplied for the modification again. And then this time they denied it based on the fact that I was self-employed. So when they denied it the second time, I decided, you know what? There's no possible way that I'm going to continue pouring $28,000 into this home on top of association dues and property taxes and insurance. I'm done doing that. They've gotten the last cent out of me that they're going to get. So I knew that typically foreclosures take about a year. So I was pretty much preparing myself for a foreclosure, and that's what I did. I stopped paying my mortgage. I all the money that I would normally be spending, I didn't. It's not like I took the money that I would be spending on my mortgage and started buying TVs and Louboutins and taking trips. I was very disciplined in what I did with that money. That money had a very specific purpose, and that was to be saved so that when I hit rock bottom in terms of my FICO score, I would already have cash on hand to sort of nullify the impact of having a 300 credit score. So I lived pretty much rent free for about a year and a month. And I didn't want the embarrassment of a sheriff coming and knocking on my front door and asking me to leave. So I got notice of the sheriff's sale, and the property didn't sell the first time, so that's why I got the extra month. But during that time, I began looking for a new place. I found a new place, moved in, and I left my condo. Now, once I did that, now I have a foreclosure on my credit history, and I need to figure out how I'm going to deal with that. In addition to that, I also had a repossession on my credit history from Ford Motor Credit. Now, I'm going to try to give you guys sort of the abridged version of this Ford Motor Credit hiccup as well. Basically, I had a car. I had stopped working, and I had the money to pay for my car note. But you know how when you stop working, you're kind of you're hoarding money because you don't want to get caught at the. I know as long as I have some money, I'll be able to make things happen. So I decided one month that I was going to skip a car payment. Now I only had probably about maybe $1,000 left on this car, and I went out to pay to get in the car one day to go to work, and it was a temp position that I was going to, and the car was gone. It was gone, and once again, I went through all of this sort of rigmarole to try to get the car back. They wouldn't do it. They wound up selling the car for a fraction of what it was worth, and then telling me that I still owed them $1,800. So I'm like, there's no possible way in hell that I'm going to pay you $1,800 for a car that you repossessed and sold. If you sold it, as far as I'm concerned, we're even. And they're like, no, we're not. We're not even. You owe us. On top of owing us, we're going to charge you interest on this $1,800. So the $1,800, because I refused to pay it, ballooned up until almost about maybe $15,000 or $16,000. So I had this repossession from Ford Motor Credit, and then I had the foreclosure from my home, both um, sort of lagging on my credit score, dragging on my credit score. And I decided it was time for me to do something about it, and that's when bankruptcy came into the picture. So technically, while I was doing pretty well financially when I decided to file for bankruptcy, I did it as a means of pressing the reset button. So I filed for bankruptcy. It took me probably about maybe 3 months to complete the process. There was a lot of things, a lot of documentation that I had to get, being that I had a store and all of this other stuff. So the process was about 3 months. I went before a judge. I had to disclose all of my financials and all of the things that I owned, all of my assets, what have you. And the judge signed off and discharged the bankruptcy, and life began anew. And I can't tell you how great financially life has been having filed that bankruptcy. And not only is it great because I got the opportunity to press the reset button. You know how sometimes when you're getting older, you say, gee, if I knew then what I knew now, I would be a completely different person. I would do things completely different. That's what bankruptcy is. Bankruptcy is the opportunity for you to do things different with the knowledge that you've gained. So now that I have all of this knowledge, I only use credit when it's necessary. Very often I use credit. I use my credit. If I use my credit cards, I'm not using my credit cards to go shopping. I typically use my credit cards to buy inventory for my store. The reason I use my credit cards to buy inventory for my store is because I have cashback credit cards. So by buying inventory, the credit card is actually paying me versus me paying the credit card. So every time I purchase inventory, I'm getting 1% back of whatever the value of that inventory is. Um, and so it's beneficial for me. I don't use credit cards in my everyday life. If I can't pay cash, if I can't use my debit card for it, I don't want it. I would never, under any circumstances, buy a brand new car. I think buying a brand new car is the dumbest thing you could possibly do unless you have money hand over fist. But for those of us who work very hard for our dollars, I think buying a brand new car, when you drive a brand new car off the lot, it instantly depreciates 30%. And each year thereafter, for the most part, is constantly depreciating in value. So I would prefer to just buy it after it's reached a depreciation. So for me, if I can buy a car within sort of 5 years of its birth date, so if it's 2017, I'm okay with buying a car from 2013, and that's not going to make me feel inferior, or 2012, I should say, in the least. So that's the mentality that I move forward. And I know that if I'm buying a car within 5 years, that I can pay cash for it. I can go and say, here's $10,000, here's $12,000, buy my car, be done with it, not have to deal with lenders, not have to deal with interest rates, because those are the things that really kill us financially. So that's me moving forward now with the knowledge that I didn't have before. Even when it comes to home ownership, now I rent. And eventually, at some point, I do think that I'm going to buy another home. But the first time I purchased a home that had an adjustable rate mortgage, because I was so naive and didn't realize exactly what that meant. Now in 2017, I would never go near an adjustable rate mortgage. It's the worst possible thing that you could do, but they took advantage of my ignorance at that particular point in time. So if you're a person who's struggling with the concept of bankruptcy, or a person who's struggling financially, I can honestly tell you, like, I've seen my credit score go from basically, I think the lowest point, it was like 360, 375, and now I'm in the 700s. I'm in the mid 700s. And so that's all happened for me probably over the last maybe 4 years, where my credit score has gone up astronomically. I have credit cards now. I don't have any debt that's lingering, and I really shy away from debt. And I owe so much of this opportunity moving forward in my life to having the wherewithal to file bankruptcy. So if you're a person who is struggling financially and you're sort of getting caught up on the word bankruptcy, do not be dissuaded from filing bankruptcy based on stigma. You really have to stop and see it as an opportunity to reset and to redirect your life. It's the best thing that I've ever done financially. It has opened up so many opportunities. And also, one of the greatest things about filing bankruptcy is now when I do decide to purchase a home, when I purchase a home, I'll be purchasing a home as a first time home buyer because I pressed the reset button. So now that's going to make me eligible for all sorts of programs, all sorts of loan opportunities that I wouldn't have had I have not exercised my right to bankruptcy. So if you're thinking about bankruptcy, by all means, like I said, do not let the stigma of the word bankruptcy deter you. Being in bankruptcy, filing bankruptcy does not necessarily mean you're bankrupt. It doesn't mean that you're broke. It means that, you pretty much have some debts that have gotten a little out of control. And, sometimes these lenders are so predatory, they're so aggressive, they're so um, they're machines. They're not humans. They don't operate on empathy. They operate on numbers. They operate on returns, and so they're not really thinking about the fact that you're struggling on a day-to-day basis and what this may mean for your quality of life. So a bankruptcy is a way to take the reins from them and put them back in your hands. And not just take the reins from them, but take the reins and hold on to them and make sure that they never get a hold of them again. So once again, I really think that, if you're a person who's debating or thinking about filing bankruptcy, that don't let that word keep you from moving your life forward. Replace bankruptcy with the word reset, because this is an opportunity to reset your financial future, your financial well-being, and really give yourself a fighting chance. um, yeah, and that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, comments for me about what I did, how I did it, and how it's affected me, please feel free to comment below. Remember to follow me across all social media platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. I'm Cerebral Diva on all platforms. No underscores, no accent aigus, no hash marks. Just Cerebral Diva. If you can spell, you can find me. As always, in closing, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.